Just a couple years ago, when I was very new here, a representative from the other side of the aisle stood up and called several members from this side of the aisle out by name and said, "Just do the right thing," and then repeated a name. "Do the right thing," and then repeated a name. So I'm going to ask a couple of the folks from the other side of the aisle who I've built friendships with and believe that they have deep convictions in regard to this bill, and one in particular who came to my office personally, and we talked about some beliefs that he has that are because his grandmother helped raise him, and so on. But understanding that and knowing that even a previous speaker who said that he's talked to the bill sponsor and did some polling in his district, and this is a bill that doesn't really have anything to do with polling. And it really doesn't have anything to do with the difference between whether someone does not believe in abortion but also believes in capital punishment. There's a real distinction between an innocent life being taken and someone who has violated a law that clearly says that you forfeit your life for violating that law. For approximately 36 years, it's been the policy here in Illinois and in our country that our citizens shouldn't be required to pay for other people's abortions. And currently, Illinois Medicaid programs cover abortions in rare cases such as rape and incest, or for those that threaten a mother's life. In current form, House Bill 40 expands the Medicaid coverage for all abortions at any phase of pregnancy. And, I was thinking about what I've experienced in my lifetime. Women don't like to give away their age, but I was born in 1963. During my lifetime, we have moved from allowing abortions at the first trimester to allowing abortions in the second trimester, to allowing abortions in the third trimester, to allowing partial birth abortions. Until just a few years ago, I read a quote from George Soros that said that he believed you should be able to get rid of a child all the way up to age 2 because they couldn't feed themselves and they weren't potty trained. And, so it's an ongoing progression that we're becoming desensitized to whether or not a life begins at conception, where, clearly we could argue what scriptures say about when life begins, and that would be an ongoing argument, I'm sure. But even if we take this outside of that realm and use some of the quotes by a previous speaker who talked about the Chicago Tribune and some quotes from some leaders in the ACLU, and one I don't think that was mentioned, legal expert Lori Chaitin, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that name, also with the ACLU, told the Chicago Tribune in 2006 that a court has held that the trigger law has no effect in its statement of intention. It doesn't say that we'll go back to concrete law that actually bans abortion. So there's two aspects in this particular bill that the representative is carrying. One really goes to the core of who many of us are, that is outside of polling and is outside of what another person can tell me to believe. It goes to the very core of our faith in saying that a life begins at conception, and no one has the right to take that life. But it also goes to the core of many of our colleagues on the other side of the aisle who want to be able to use Medicaid money to help the most vulnerable among us. And when we're going to spend millions and millions of dollars to allow an expansion of Medicaid to fund abortions, then I guess I really just don't understand how we can say that we do care about the most vulnerable among us when we have limited funds anyway, and we're going to be spending money to increase something that goes, not only is opposed by many of us, but is considered to be an abomination. So half of this bill is a waste of time because attorneys on both sides of the aisle and a judge have concluded that there's no trigger law that bans abortion in Illinois. But the second half of the bill is a ridiculous policy that expands abortion in the state of Illinois and shouldn't be part of providing free abortions to whoever wants them at any stage of a pregnancy for any reason. I stand in opposition of this bill. I'll stand in opposition of any bill that looks anything like this, and I challenge those of you who are on the other side of the aisle, who claim to be people of faith, to oppose this bill.